Okay, so now that we've seen kind of from a high level perspective what the mobile first platform is, what I want to do is really dive in and take a very focused look at the capabilities that come in the box, basically, right? What are the things that the mobile first platform does? And so to start with this understanding, I want to start from the perspective of the mobile app developer. So the mobile app, this is the person that's writing the code, right? This is the guy who, or the woman in this case, who's developing the mobile app. Now, when you develop a mobile app, you write your code somewhere, right? You have to kind of have an environment that you're developing this code in. And so, out of the box, we provide something called the Mobile First Studio, which is an Eclipse-based development environment for writing your mobile application code. Now, that's just one of the ways that you can develop your mobile apps. You don't have to use the Mobile First Studio. So if you're somebody who is writing a native app, for example, then you're going to be using Android Studio or Xcode, or maybe Visual Studio if you're writing something for Microsoft platforms. Or maybe you are just writing and you prefer to write things in your favorite text editor. Bring your own tools, we say. Certainly feel free to do that. But if you don't have any existing development environment, then you can feel free to use the Mobile First Studio for writing your code. Now, when we write mobile apps, we're basically writing two different things. First of all, we're writing the code that is going to essentially be that app that people download from the App Store or wherever that runs in their device, and that's an important part. And the other thing that we write is the capability that's going to be running on the back end. And for that, we use the second piece of our mobile first platform here, which is the mobile first server. So you can kind of think of this as the mobile middleware that houses the back end capabilities that our mobile app is going to be communicating with. And we can kind of draw that this way, right? So our users are using our app. We have components that are built into the mobile device, so libraries that are included out of the box that make it very easy to communicate with that back end through something that we call adapters, with the whole point being that we want to be able to access and get at information that is typically in our systems of record within our organization. Unless we're creating a very simple app, chances are that our apps are going to have to integrate with existing systems within our enterprise, right? Where they're going to have to get at that valuable data that you've got in the back end and surface that up to customers through their mobile devices in very interesting ways. And so, this is one of the capabilities that the mobile first platform gives you, is that ability to do that integration with those systems of record. Now, for some of the data that you're creating and some of the information that you want to keep track of as people are using your mobile app, you'll want to store in something perhaps called like Cloudant, which is a NoSQL database. So if you're familiar with NoSQL databases, you kind of understand the value that they provide to mobile. But for those of you that aren't, NoSQL databases give you the ability to capture very quickly information that's essentially represented as a JSON, as a JavaScript object document. And you can store collections of these documents inside databases and find them and index them and search for them very, very easily. So it's great for stuff like, customer preferences and using your mobile app. Things that you really don't want to have to maintain a separate SQL database and keep track of the columns, as the columns might be changing as you're adding new preferences from one release to the next. But information that's just very quickly and easily dealt with and stored as a JSON object. And so the mobile first platform includes Cloudant as a NoSQL database that you are free to use with your mobile apps. And so like I said, we do this by writing these adapters that run on this mobile first server. The other thing that these adapters can do is take advantage of StrongLoop, which is a recent acquisition of IBM. And what StrongLoop is basically an API layer that you can create APIs using Node.js, right? So a very popular JavaScript runtime. And these APIs then can be the cornerstone of your API economy strategy in your organization, so that if it's not just mobile apps that are requiring to get at certain pieces of information, but maybe you want to expose this out to a wider number of apps, or even out to your partners or other departments inside of your organization, you can do that through StrongLoop to very quickly and easily expose information as APIs that can be consumed from a number of places. So StrongLoop is a very valuable piece here of the story as we're starting to talk about exposing enterprise data as APIs for consumption, for example, here through mobile apps. Now, as we introduce the next role into our story, we see that of the administrator or the operational support person. And so this person actually uses a capability of the mobile first server called the Operations Console to be able to take a look at and manage and understand all of the apps and the versions of those apps and the platforms of those apps that are deployed on our mobile first server. So really giving them the ability to wrap their brain around the entire deployment kind of deployment environment, all of these things that are up and running that you have to be able to manage and keep track of over time. So the operational console gives some very interesting and valuable capabilities to do that level of management. And the operational support person, the administrator, is also typically using the next box, the next piece of the mobile first platform, which is the operational analytics. Now, operational analytics gives visibility into how your apps are performing. Now, this can be anything from, what are the average response time for calls from the devices down to our adapter functions that are running on our server. This might be, breaking down the different types of devices that our customers are using and the different operating systems of those devices to get a sense for what our customer base is. It might be things like understanding what features and functions of our app are being used, right? As people are moving through different screens of the app, we can capture that type of information and show that very simply in the operational analytics. It might be, using this to capture logging information about problems that somebody's having on their device so that we can go ahead and fix those problems, roll out new versions of our app before people even realize that these problems are occurring, right? So all of this kind of thing is supported by the operational analytics functionality. And this is an important area where the platform is really growing because we're putting a lot of focus on the development of the operational analytics to take it out of purely that operational realm and start to introduce capabilities that allow even business users to get a better sense for how business capabilities are being consumed and exposed within the mobile apps. So maybe you want to be able to track transaction volumes for customers that are using your mobile channel. This is all information that would be relevant to a business audience, and we can surface that in the analytics console as well. And so, like I said, we're continuing to make heavy investments in this area, so stay tuned as that gets even more and more exciting over time. So now, typically, if you're creating a mobile app that's going out to your end customers that are not within your organization, you're not basically writing that app and then somehow just sending it to their phones. You have to distribute your apps through any of the typical app stores. So, the Apple App Store, Google Play, BlackBerry Marketplace, whatever the case may be. But for situations where your customers are employees, so these B2E apps, what we also have inside of the mobile first platform is something called the App Center. And so you can kind of think of this as a B2E app store, right? So it's a place where you can deploy your mobile apps for people to come and download them from within your enterprise. Now, typically, organizations that are pushing out mobile apps to their employees, kind of these production level mobile apps once they've finished all of the development and testing, will do that using an MDM solution, so a mobile device management solution. And this might be IBM's mobile device management solution, which is MAS 360, but it could be one of our competitors as well. And these solutions typically have an app store as part of the bundle that you can use kind of for your production ready apps. So where we typically see the App Center be used is when we've got the apps that are still being developed and we want to have an efficient mechanism for getting these apps out to our various test communities, and we don't want to just be posting them, sending them around by email or trying to keep track of what version of of the app people are testing. We can post these apps into the App Store. Employees and testers can go to the App Store, this App Center, and they can get the latest version of the app available for them to testing, and we can have this as part of our normal DevOps lifecycle. So that App Center becomes very valuable in that case. The other piece that's very important from a testing perspective is making sure that your mobile app does not fall prey to any of the OWASP top 10 kind of mobile app vulnerabilities. And so this is an open standards group that has identified the most common characteristics of security breaches inside of mobile apps. And what Mobile First App Scan does is it scans all of your source code for your mobile app, pinpointing the specific spots where you might be creating an app that is susceptible to any of these top 10 risks. And it'll point you at the exact line of code that you then need to go ahead and address so that you can make sure that your app is going to be secure and is not vulnerable to these types of attacks. And so that's a code scanning capability that you typically run as part of your DevOps lifecycle. Again, as you're writing code, checking it in, you have this code scan and you have these reports being automatically produced. The next important piece of the Mobile First platform, which is very valuable, especially during beta testing phase, is mobile quality assurance. And so what mobile quality assurance is about is giving your users, who typically during the beta phase are your key stakeholders of your organization, who have commissioned the apps to be built, or they have the most say in terms of how they're behaving and the capabilities and the behavior. It's about giving those people the ability to provide very quick and easy feedback to help capture the issues that they're seeing before you're pushing this mobile app out into the general public. And so, with mobile quality assurance, what we can do is very quickly and easily provide the capability to allow bug reporting by people just shaking their phone, right? You shake your phone, it'll automatically capture a screenshot of whatever is happening on your device at that time, give you the ability to draw on that screenshot to show a specific spot on the screen, for example, that might be displaying an issue or a problem or something just not right, and very quickly and easily submit that feedback into a centralized repository of bugs and things to fix. So what we typically find is that without a capability like this, it takes beta testers usually around 20 minutes once it's all said and done to capture and report on an issue, right? You have to certainly experience the issue in the first place. You somehow take a screenshot, get that screenshot over onto your laptop so you can open a web page and type in a problem report. And when it's all said and done, it takes about 20 minutes. So what we found with mobile quality assurance is we can get that number typically down to about 2 minutes, which means, and this is the most important thing, is that it means that at the end of the day, these very valuable beta testers and the feedback that they have, people are much more incented to actually provide you that feedback because they can do it so quickly and easily, instead of getting lost in all the other things that they have to do and not getting around to providing you that feedback. So certainly we find mobile quality assurance incredibly valuable in terms of its ability to solicit feedback from that beta audience. Okay, the last two capabilities here that I want to just call out from a mobile first platform perspective are adaptive content. This is a very interesting capability that's soon to be released on our Bluemix platform that allows business users the ability to make changes to content without having to go through the typical kind of IT development cycles to put out a new version of your mobile app. And so this has embedded workflow for approvals and reviews into the ability for business users to come in and say, hey, you know what, I want this new product to be featured on the homepage of my mobile app. When people kind of come here, I want them to see this content front and center, and I want to change it over time, but I don't want to have to go back to IT to do that. So adaptive content gives you some very powerful capabilities there to make that happen. And then the last one is Presence Insights. And so Presence Insights gives you the ability to track your users around indoor positioning and indoor location types of scenarios. So think banks, right? As your customers are moving around your bank branch and you want to understand where they are within the branch. Think airports, right? As somebody's moving around airports, you want to get an understanding of their movement from one zone to the next and how long people might be staying in average on one zone. Think retail locations, as you've got a store with lots of departments and you want to understand how people are moving throughout your store, where they're spending most time, and maybe even taking some action when you start to understand that a frequently visiting customer has come into your store and is in the department for a second time that day, and maybe you want to go out and push them some offer or do something very interactive to be able to engage them. So all of those situations where you can't use GPS because GPS is limited to kind of the ability to be seen by a satellite, but somebody is inside of your indoor network, be it Wi-Fi or a beacon created network, and you want to have the ability to understand how people are moving through that space and potentially take action upon patterns that you see. So that indoor presence insights capability is all about that indoor location types of scenarios. And so there you have it, the mobile first platform in a box. So at the end of the day, we've put a lot of different boxes on the screen here, a lot of different components. There's a lot kind of in the mobile first platform. And each of these you can kind of decide whether it's something that meets a need that you have in your mobile development efforts, or maybe you've got that area covered, and that's fine. Back to the point about this being a modular platform, it's really all about taking advantage of the capabilities that are going to help you be successful and develop your mobile apps faster, and not just any mobile apps, but mobile apps that are going to be great and satisfy your audiences.